And we're off. And we're off. Deep breath in, because this is Podcast 13. Ugh. Another guest episode. We have a lot going on here. This is kind of a chaotic podcast. I mean, I just pulled up. I'm in a space. Let's get this out the way. Hey, Remy. All right, it's me, Remy, and today's guest is the man himself, Aaron Coyne.
What's
Welcome
up?
to the podcast.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. This is Aaron, and I'm here to talk. We're gonna have a good conversation.
Aaron's on the podcast today, and where are we at, Aaron? Where are we?
Well, we're at my house in my music studio, kind of, and we've got Remy here, which is Alex's cat, and currently Remy is scaring us by making me think he's gonna knock over my candle or one of my drinks and knock it onto Alex, expensive laptop. But I think we're gonna be okay. He's just very, very curious, and
Yeah, he's super active. He's this is my first time really in this room, Remy's first time in the room, and Remy's definitely, he's been out of his carrier for about 5 minutes, and he's really inspecting the entire room, entirety of it.
he's not shy. I'll say that.
Yeah, he's gonna chill out. We definitely don't want Remy to ruin the entire podcast by spilling water onto my audio interface and my MacBook. But
Yeah.
he's chilling out. This
He'll
is
be
a
good.
podcast. We are doing a podcast, settling into the podcast. So just to build a little bit of context for the audience, me and Aaron, we're friends for
We are.
sure.
Yeah, we're friends.
We are friends.
I think at this point we're going to be lifelong friends. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, you're good. This is kind of part of the dynamic of two people podcasting is feeling, I don't want to talk over you. I want to give you space to talk.
yeah.
And we got to kind of find that together.
Yeah, man. We'll get into a rhythm, I think.
We will. We're in that awkward, anything before 7 minutes really kind of is just getting adjusted. But we're going to get in there, man. We are
It feels like we're on a first date almost. Not a first date, but like we're just on a date. Like we have to be like everything we say, we have to kind of watch what we say, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We're kind of like, yeah, no, and I get that with guests, and so I try and just take, I just want you to know you're in good hands. I mean, this is this is my 13th podcast, man. I've been doing them, and I'm super grateful that you're joining me on the podcast.
I'm happy to be here, man, and you're a veteran at this point, and I'm just glad to be in conversation with you, and because we've had a lot of conversations, but it feels like this one's more purposeful.
Right. It really is. I mean, a podcast is really a way to just inject some meaning into a conversation. I mean, that's kind of why we came up with them.
Yeah.
But so just to give, do you want to give the people a little bit of context on how we're friends, why we're friends, how we met, kind of the backdrop?
I'll do what I remember, and then
Okay.
because you might have a different memory of when we first met or when we first started, hanging out or whatever. But I think I was working at the gym here on campus at Western Kentucky University. I think we first met in the gym, if I'm not mistaken, and I was working there, and you worked out pretty often, and I think I saw you there. I don't know if I think you started talking to one of the coworkers because you were already friends with her, and then every now and then you'd say hey when you walk by the desk or something, and then next thing you know we would engage in like small conversation. That's probably what happened, but again, I'm just kind of guessing.
Yeah, I remember it the exact same way, pretty much.
Okay.
Kind of through the gym, just passing by each other. Probably like saw each other a lot. Just one of those people you always see in the gym. If you work out in a gym, you know about 5 to 10 people that you always see. You basically feel like you know them, but you've never said a word to them. That's kind of how our relationship started.
Definitely, man. You know what's funny is, like I said, I worked at the gym, so I would meet people every day that I would say hey to and talk to them, and we would call each other like bro and man and dude. And I mean, I'm talking for years, and I
Yeah.
didn't know their names. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we like learned each other's names. I think that helps. Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah. Yeah, once you know someone's name, I mean, that kind of takes it to the next level for sure.
Well, I think some people are like a little bit hesitant to be like to like maybe introduce their name and want to like further the relationship because it's almost like at the gym people want to keep things like gym only like gym friends. You know what I mean? Like you want to just
Mhm.
say hey, you because you're sometimes trying to get in and out.
Mhm.
You're in a hurry because you want to focus on your workout, and so sometimes it's hard to like really actually uh, build good friendships and connections at the gym because some people are very surface level. But like
Mhm.
if there's a lot of cool people. Like I'm glad that we met. Like I don't know how we got further than gym bros, but
Well, I remember the first time we kind of talked. I kind of remember it because I remember talking to you and realizing that once we actually started like speaking and like you were speaking to me, you were very unlike what I had imagined you being like, because I
yeah,
think we do that. We kind of predict what people are like. And then I remember the first time we talked, you seem to have, I don't know if we want to drop this word so early on, but Aaron definitely seemed like he was in the moment. He was very present. I learned that about
present.
him. He was very yeah, and like I said, I kind of just chalked him up to being, some guy at the gym, some gym bro,
Yeah,
whatever. But no, we had a really good dialogue, and then I feel like there was a pretty big gap. I honestly can't connect the dots of like when we talked at Preston Center, the gym, and then we started playing disc golf, and then we
hmm
started making music. But I don't really remember that like, bridge in between there.
there was. I remember one thing that comes to mind was like one day we were saying hey like usual, and then I think you kind of I could tell you were like in a bad mood or you were upset or something because I could just sense your like energy and your obviously like your facial expressions and stuff. And I remember just us kind of getting into that, and you telling me that maybe someone you worked with died or something,
Oh
someone you knew
yeah.
died, and that was one of the times I remember us kind of getting past our
Mm.
just like hey man what's up how are you like we actually started talking about real shit. And that sometimes also is pretty cool to be able to even talk about things that like that, like something bad, but it helped us get deeper.
Yeah, yeah, that was basically 4 years to the date. It was 2019, Christmas of 2019, and I lost a coworker. Um, we were like exactly the same age. She was completely healthy, and while she was sleeping on the night of Christmas Eve, she had a brain aneurysm in her sleep, and she peacefully passed away in her sleep. And her family like found her like on Christmas morning. Her family, discovered that she had passed away, and she was like 23. She was my age, and that hit me really hard to get that news.
Mm.
This was when I worked here in Bowling Green, and I was at Fruit of the Loom, and that rocked me. That shook me up because I'm like, man, like I just talked to her. We were becoming good friends. She was like one of the few people at my job that I felt like we were getting close to, and then just out of nowhere, just literally out of nowhere to get that news. It was pretty heavy news, man. That's
Yeah,
crazy that you remember like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that was I think that was because like I said, that was one of the first times we got real. But
Yeah.
it's always it's crazy, isn't it? Like, as you're growing up and then getting older and like people start more people start to die, and it really makes you start thinking about more than just like kind of what we grew up thinking, more than just like, you know, day to day, like, what am I going to do today? Do I want to like, especially like when you're in college and stuff, you're thinking about like drinking or partying or
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with friends, or what am I going to do with my life? Like, what am I going to do for work? You're always thinking about like work and doing things, but then like death kind of makes you take a step back and be like, holy shit, like, is any of this stuff really that important? Like, what are we even doing here? Like, what
Mm.
is my life beyond like what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, what I'm like work and all that stuff, going to the gym. It's
Yeah, death will make you reconsider some things, and I might have to get loud here on the podcast because I have to tell Remy to get off. Remy, off, off.
I keep moving my drinks, and then wherever I move them, Remy goes to, and it's like just a constant
Yeah, the
cycle.
irony is, so Aaron has two dogs, and I was like asking Aaron, hey, can we maybe keep the dogs out of the room? Because I don't, and I stuck up for you, Remy. Literally allowed you access to the podcast, and now Remy's climbing on the counter. He's like looking at the laptop like he wants to jump on it and delete the whole podcast.
Remy, Remy, Remy.
He was all cooped up in the car.
Yeah.
Remy, I might have to put, hey, Remy in. Remy in. Yep, in the carrier he goes.
All right, Remy's going up, guys.
Nope. All right, Remy, and you can take a chill pill, son. All right, Remy I just coerced him into the carrier, and now he might start meowing, but hey, that's better than him spilling drinks on the computer. And he's
already trying to find his way out. These are cats for you. Let's get into pets.
Yeah, this is a great segue into pets. You have a couple pets.
I have two dogs. One of them I've had for less than 2 weeks, and she's just like the sweetest thing in the world. But like, I've been letting her sleep in the same bed with me, which I let my other dog do that too, but she sometimes doesn't want to. She just stays on the couch. But the puppy, my newest one, she's like my little shadow. And so when we're asleep, she keeps like inching her way up, like to be on top of my face. So like, she'll start with her head on my chest, and then she'll like 10 minutes later, she'll put her head up higher. 10 minutes later, she's on my neck, and I have to keep like pushing her down because I'm trying, like, it's cute before I go to sleep and it's cute after I wake up. But when you're trying to sleep, like you're in the middle of like falling asleep and something just like keeps like scratching at you, or she's not like being mean. She just wants to be on top of me. She wants to be like as close as possible to
They want attention.
my soul, because it's which I love that. But usually halfway through the night, I have to put her in her crate, because it just gets on my nerves and I can't sleep. But the whole point of this is, I take care of pets.
That's like your job, right?
Yeah.
What you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm like always around pets, and they're my favorite thing.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you this. What do your pets kind of mean to you? Because I know one of your dogs is like an emotional support animal, or
no, she's
not on paper, but
not, like, obviously I consider her that, like, just because I mean, at this point they're always with me. But it's not like I have to have them. It's just that I love them, and I love being around them. So of course I'm going to spend them, and I'm like fortunate enough to where I can keep them with me pretty much all day, because like I said, I'm going to watch other people's pets, and usually they come with me. So
yeah. So you're a big pet guy. Do you ever watch cats?
oh yeah.
So you're dog and cat. You don't discriminate. You love them all.
I don't discriminate. I will say that I'm more of a dog person, because I just feel like I can relate to them so well. I can read them. And then cats, sometimes I can't always get a read on them. Like, there's been a couple situations where, well, there's one time I went to watch some cats, and like one of the cats jumped up on the counter, was like meowing, like acting all friendly, and wanted me to come pet him. So I went over there to pet him, and he bit me and started hissing at me.
Dang.
And this happened multiple times. And at a certain point, I was like, dude, we're done. Like, our relationship is done. So I was still going to take care of them because the owners were out of town. But I would like keep there. As soon as you walk in the door, there was like a trash can there. So I would grab that, because I mean he would like try to attack me, not just like
Oh, he's coming
his,
for
but
you.
he would like come at me and like try to, and I would have to wear like these thick pants and gloves. I mean, it was crazy. Like even during the summertime, because this I knew this cat was going to attack me as soon as I walked in, so I had to like, I'm not going to just leave it there and let
Mm-hmm.
it, run out of food or water, or not clean its litter boxes. So
Yeah.
I go in, get the job done, keep a trash can between us, and get out as quick as possible.
Dang, it was like a mission. Like you just had to get in and get out and get it done.
Yeah, man. I mean, dogs can be. I'm not saying that cats are like that. It's just this one.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, I get that. So you do a lot of pet work, a lot of and that's like you use the app Rover, and that's like your
Hmm.
main gig. You're always taking care of other people's pets, and that's like how you make all your income pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, I use Rover for a lot of my new clients, but I still have a lot of people on the side. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a there's this one guy who I pretty much became his like personal assistant. I mean, like he first found me through Rover, but then I watched his dogs for a couple of years, and then he started getting me to. I started cleaning his house, giving him rides. I did pressure washing for him. I was like, yeah, basically his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Take him to the airport, pick him up, and he would get me to watch his dogs for like several hours a day. Stuff like that I love because I can just like hang out at one place and do all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he moved, so but yeah, basically it's just pets. All my income.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're almost like the pets are paying you. Remy. Remy. Oh, come on, man. Remy, you're ruining the podcast,
This is
brother.
this is why we need a video podcast because
So one of the words that we put down, the first word we wrote down for our show notes, me and Aaron, was presence. You know, that's one of the big things that we've bonded over. We can't keep beating around the bush, dude. Presence
right.
is why we are friends. And people are gonna say, what does that really mean? I mean, first let's address the irony of that. We're not trying to be, we are present, but sometimes things impede the presence, and Remy is that thing that is just negating a little bit of the presence because it's like, but
I don't think he's negating it. I think he is part of what we're experiencing in the present moment, and we either have to accept it or change it if we can.
he's definitely
I've accepted it.
he's definitely a little worked up. I bet he can smell the dogs,
Oh
and
yeah, probably.
he's definitely a little more alert and active than he would normally be, and we're kind of in a tighter space. Let me create more of a context for you listeners, my beautiful, precious listeners that give your ear to me and just lend it over to me, and I let me speak right into your little ear hole.
Preach.
This is where we are right here. I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Can you guys say Bowling Green, Kentucky? This is where I went to college. I pulled up here in 2014, said, hey, let me get some knowledge from this town, extract the knowledge out the college, got it all set up in my brain. I lived in this town for 7 years. Okay, that's a long time. I did the pandemic in this town. This is kind of a special place. I did a lot of like growing in this town, Bowling Green, Kentucky. Like I said, went to college here, graduated, and stayed here a couple years. Met Aaron in this town, one of my best friends that I met in Bowling Green. And now, just to kind of build off the previous context from the other podcast, I was just home in the dirty streets of NKY, just experience friendship, just experience family, just experience Christmas, just experienced family part two, just experienced illness, just experienced, getting a stomach bug. And now I'm driving back. I'm kind of going a roundabout way back to Colorado because I was in NKY, went down to Louisville, and then I went down. Now I'm driving down to Bowling Green. I'm in Bowling Green as we speak. And then I'm going to Nashville to stay at a friend's house who's not even there. I'm just literally using his his place to sleep. Me and Remy are. And then tomorrow I'm driving all the way back. Tomorrow's the 29th of December. And I'm driving all the way back to Colorado tomorrow in one go, 16-hour drive. So I need some night's rest tonight. But this is a pit stop on the way. Had to pull up on Mr. Coin and said, hey, give me that knowledge, bro. Give me that presence. Speak your mind.
Give me the keys. Give me the keys. Give me the keys to life, you know?
And if you guys don't know, Aaron Coinage, we call him, he is also a cornerstone piece to Gimme the Keys. I mean, if it's a trifecta of Gimme the Keys, it's me, Zay, and Coin. We were all there that night. If you guys listen to Pod 10 with Zay really kind of let us have the keys. I mean, he really kind of laid them all out on that podcast. And gosh, I remember thinking about you, Aaron. I'm like, I bet you had like something to say about that night, the Give Me the Keys, because you were right there and you had your own perspective of it all. Mm-hmm. You had that third party perspective, not even third party, but just that third part of a party to the Give Me the Keys. And I don't know if you want to kind of...
Definitely.
I mean, because I'm thinking of, we wrote a lot down on the show notes, and I'm just thinking... we got to kind of get to the cream of the crop. I mean, presents, Give Me the Keys. I mean, Give Me the Keys is kind of the thing. So,
yeah.
Do you remember that? What do you make of that whole story? What do you make of that day, really?
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for that I'm just a pit stop in your whole journey, and for bringing the stomach bug over here. I really appreciate all that. I'm just kidding. Okay, Give Me the Keys. Yes, we were at Red Rocks. About to watch one of the concerts of our lives. I mean, a couple of the people there are just like fucking fire starters. They are just electric. Mm-hmm. Well, we can, Harry Mack and Mark Ribier. Harry Mack is amazing, but they both are. But Give Me the Keys. We were sitting there waiting for the concert to start, you know, and I wanted to keep my wits about me. Mm-hmm. And a couple other of my friends, they like chocolate. And so they like chocolates, and you know, when you're in Colorado, it's very easy to get a hold of some chocolates. And I decided I didn't want to, and I had known that the whole, you know, prior. But they were having a great time, all three of us, right? I think we were all like having a blast. There was one point where, I mean, like there was a little guy kind of getting us warmed up. He was like a DJ type dude. And he was, you know, whatever. It was just kind of club music, I guess. Just kind of get everybody dancing. And we were still talking because we weren't paying attention at that point. We were talking, and we were like, we started busting out laughing at one point. Do you remember? Like whenever things kind of switched and we started just fucking dying laughing.
Yeah, we started giggling. I remember when you and him went up to like go to the concessions or go to the bathroom, and I was there alone. I remember... that's kind of when I knew everything was changing, because I remember really missing you guys. Like I remember I remember like this deep like, oh, where are my friends?
Yeah,
like I'm here alone, and I wasn't, you know, going down any bad paths, but I just remember like really missing you guys. And then you guys came back, and I remember being really happy that you guys were back, and that's kind of when the giggling started.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, when I remember when we came back, there was a couple people like you had. I was actually mad at you for a little while because you let like two people come sit.
Oh,
we had our little space. We had like a pretty good seats. We had enough room, and then we came back and there was two people sitting like right where I was sitting. He's like, "Hey man, they were wanting to like sit up here," and I was like, "I think there's enough room." So I kind of like didn't know what to say.
Well, I kind of told them no, because they came up and I'm one guy taking up obviously a lot of like, you know, real estate on the bench, and they were like, "Hey, can we sit here?" And I kind of was like, "Sorry, no, you can't." And they just kind of looked at me, and I'm like my friends are coming back, like they're both like big guys, they're kind of tall, like, and you and Zay are tall guys, and I'm like, and I'm kind of not tall, and I'm like, you know, I need all this space, and they were just so nice, like they were so friendly. It was this guy and his I think his girlfriend or wife, but they were like, "Can we squeeze?" And like, what am I gonna say to that? Like, no, you can't squeeze. I'm like, yeah, you guys can squeeze. And then that makes sense. Man. So you came back and you were all bummed that.
Well, like I felt so good before that. Like I was like, finally, I'm at a concert with good in a good row and I
Uh-huh.
have a good space.
Uh-huh.
Because usually when I go see like people that I really like, I'm like, we're all crammed together. And I was like, finally, I got some space. And then I came back and that space was gone. And I was like, are you kidding me? So now I'm just realizing it's inevitable. You know, we just got to share the space and be okay with like touching our neighbors, you know, whatever. But it was fine,
Well,
dude.
you said you were mad at me. Like, how mad were you?
Like, it wasn't mad at you. It was more just like,
Kind of
I was mad
disappointed.
at the situation. It was in my head for probably 20 minutes, and I was like, God, I really wish that these people were not like touching me right now,
Mm-hmm.
because I had like leg space and I was vibing,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's fine, dude.
you should know that I literally said no, you can't sit here because I gave them a firm no,
Yeah,
and they were just still kind of like,
they weren't taking no for an answer, honestly.
kind of, yeah. And then they kind of framed it in a way where I was like, yeah. They're like, can we squeeze? I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, like they're like basically saying like everybody squeezes, you know, like everybody's gonna squeeze for us. Like
Yeah.
don't be a jerk. It would have been better if me and Isaiah went to the bathroom one at a time. That way we
Yeah,
came back
that
to
would
like,
have been
listen, man,
nice.
one of our friends, because there wouldn't be that much space, and somebody might have been like, oh, I understand.
True, we could have been two friends and had a space in between us. We could have
Exactly,
kinda-
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Good call.
it's whatever, dude.
But yeah, you guys come back. We're a little more squished in, and the weather was not good
No,
on the night of the concert. It kind of started becoming a little misty.
it was already cold.
It was already cold and
Yeah,
it was cloudy, and it started like sprinkling pretty early on. So the vibes for me and Zay, I could see how Zay could start to feel a little, a little like, I'm not feeling too good about all this.
yeah. Well, I know exactly what happened for him to like
Did you see it?
start to get a little, yeah, yeah. Because we were giggling, everything was fine. I think that obviously, you know, you guys' sense perceptions were maybe starting to change a little bit or getting a little bit more. But then it was like, it just felt like everything. People started, you know, packing around. Everyone was getting in close, and then this guy was like selling beer,
Yeah.
and he was just walking around. He stopped right. I mean, he stopped like right in front of Isaiah to the point where Isaiah couldn't like if he probably scooted his foot forward an inch, he would have like he ran
Yeah,
into the
yeah.
guy.
This guy was towering over Isaiah,
And at that
screaming,
point, I
"Get
see,
your hot dogs! Get your
yeah,
hot dogs!"
yeah, beer here. And I think I saw Isaiah's like entire mood kind of get overwhelmed, and I was like, okay,
Hmm.
you know, I could see that this is becoming too much for him, because he's like, I'm not sure if he said something before that, but I know that was like the point that kind of like did it for him.
Did he say anything to you when you all had gone to the concession? Was he pretty normal?
I
No,
think he
no,
was still normal.
yeah, no telltale signs then. Yeah, it
Yeah.
must have been really like once he got back and that guy.
And I wonder if our laughing did anything like to enhance your guys's like, you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
like, uh, like sometimes that because I feel like whenever we started laughing like that, I felt like I was starting to get maybe the mushrooms were sort of rubbing off on me a little bit.
I think that's just called friendship, but yeah, I mean,
But
it was
like
shared joy. It was tangible, like fun. Yeah,
it just felt like a little bit of a high.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and so I think maybe that might have been like it kickstarted that whole shift in his equilibrium. So like he was at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was at equilibrium, and then all of a sudden things started shifting, and like they shifted. You know when it first kind of hits you hard, that's
Right.
when you're like, oh shit, I'm feeling it. And I think that it hit him just hard and fast, and it was too much, and so he was like, okay, I gotta go away from this. But then that guy stopped right in front of him, and it was just like, okay, definitely claustrophobic. Too many, my senses are overloaded.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's loud, you know, it's cold, there's mist, there's people everywhere, there's lights flashing,
Yeah,
and
kind of a lot.
and there's this guy literally just standing right on my lap almost. And so famously,
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, did you hear him speak these words? Were you?
I think I do remember hearing him say, dude, like he's like, just give me the keys, dude. Like he said it in such a, I think he'd already asked you before that, and I heard like the second time, and you
Oh,
like kind
yeah.
of saying like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And then he like said it again. It was
Uh-huh.
like, hey man, I don't want to like, I just want the keys.
It was definitely a change in like the tone. It was a serious deviation from laughing and having fun,
Yeah.
right? Could you kind of pick up on that it was
Oh,
serious?
yeah, for sure. He definitely switched gears.
Yeah, and I pretty quickly I pretty quickly kind of confided in you because I was like, I'm not really the guy to be answering this or really taking responsibility here. So I what did I say to you?
I remember you. I knew that y'all were having a conversation. I was kind of listening, but you turned to me and was like, "Man, like he wants the keys. Like I'm not like I think he might go somewhere or something." Because I was like, I don't think that he wants the keys to take your car. I think he just literally needs to get out of this sensory overloaded environment. That's what he wants.
Hmm.
But in your mind, you're like, well, first of all, we both thought this. We're like, he shouldn't leave the venue
Right.
by him, not only just by himself, but like even if all three of us left, what like we might not be able to come back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
We
was
didn't know.
and the car was pretty far away. I mean, the
Yeah,
car wasn't just up the way. It was like he would have to walk out of Red Rocks in the cold by himself with my keys. And then it's like once you get to my car, that's probably a worse environment, I feel like.
yeah. Like, is he going to? If he's tripping, is he going to be not in the right state of mind? Is he going to be like, I need to like go somewhere else? I need to go to a get
Right. I need yeah, like he
get
thinks he's
something to
got to
drink or
drive.
yeah. So I could see where you thought that. I didn't think he was going to drive at all because he's still a smart, sensible person. We know. I feel like
Right.
I know him enough
Right.
to know he's not going to like do anything
He's not the
crazy.
dumbest guy. I
He's
mean, just
Isaiah.
kidding.
Isaiah, we love you, man.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think, and honestly, we're kind of making it out to seem like he was freaking out. I think it was more
True.
like he was just
He just needed a
had a
little bit of
moment.
breathing room.
Yeah,
Yeah. We are probably making the story bigger than it needs to be because in the grand scheme of
it
things,
was funny.
it was only about 5 minutes. But I think why it's sticking so hard is because, and I kind of explained this on the last podcast, is for me the a level of seriousness he had. I thought the whole trip was ruined because I was right there with him and I was like, wow, like this is really bad. You know, I was going
Yeah,
like mentally, I was kind of right there with them. But it's
yeah,
just funny how the night turned out after that because, he didn't get my keys. I did not give him the keys, which I think was right because it would have been really bad if he did leave. Maybe he did go cool off in the car for 15 minutes and he's ready to come back in. What if they wouldn't? I don't think there's any re-entry, you
I
know,
have no
to a
idea,
concert.
but
I
like,
think that's like pretty much a rule that everyone knows is there's no re-entry because you could leave and go like bring in drugs for other people. Like they're not going to let you back in. So I'm like, dude, if you leave, like you're literally wasting your ticket, you're wasting the night, and you're pretty much going to ruin it for me and Aaron because we're going to be obviously really worried about you the whole
yeah,
time. And then you're not going to be there. And
yeah.
then he would have missed the Harry Mack.
He would have
Like,
missed all of it. Well, he missed like 4 hours almost, probably.
dude, it would have been bad. So I don't have any regrets, no regrets, tatted it across my chest because I did the right thing. I went into good friend mode and basically I started comforting him.
Yeah. No, I think that you did the right thing. Because I was kind of just like, man, he's fine. Just chill. Just kind of saying a few words here and there. But I think you were more um, like talking him down. Like, and I was just like, yeah, he's fine. I know he'll be fine in a few minutes. It's just like overloaded. And I
Yeah.
remember the point where it switched, and he was like, yeah, I mean, I'm fine, man. I know it's just there's a lot going on, and I think it has something to do with him wearing the sunglasses. When he took those off, he was like, oh, like this is
Hmm.
so much better. And
Hmm.
he shifted and realized he was fine. And then, yeah, like you said in the previous podcast, next thing you know, um, we can't even focus on whether you're tripping or not because Harry Mack starts freestyling right down our row, like
Yeah.
out of the hundreds of rows that are possible.
Uh huh.
We're like we hear him rapping and we look over, he's just right fucking there, like just walking right towards
I
us, like
know.
literally to the point where we just like he walks right in front of us and is stops and raps in front of us for like, a minute or something. It's nuts. And I think that it could shift anybody's focus. Like even if you are having if you're tripping, having a bad trip, and something like that happens, it takes you completely out of your own mind into the present moment, and because
Oh yeah.
you're feeling that energy. I mean, it was nuts, and he's obviously just so good and improvising everything coherently, and it's just like the whole time you're like, wow, you're in awe.
You're stuck in wow and the now. You're kind
Yeah,
of like now is wow. That's your only really thought.
yeah,
I
man.
mean, yeah, that was a great concert. That night was just so much fun. Everything about that night, everything about that concert, even that whole trip really was just really fun. And it
Yeah,
really had some lasting effects on me after it because
for
that was
sure.
really the catalyst, the kind of starting point for me really feeling like um, just a change in my thinking,
Yeah,
like a deep, deep change in my thinking. Um, and it was really just, I mean, honestly, dude, all this stuff aside, I feel like this is the thing that I kind of want to talk to you about.
yeah.
Um, is I want to just kind of talk to you about what I experienced for like a good. It was a 5 day period when I started the podcast. It was this legitimate change in. The best comparison is obviously Eckhart's book, The Power Now, where he talks about one night he just woke up. He had this like pivotal moment where he woke up the next day and felt like extreme alertness,
Hmm.
extreme sense of oneness, sense of being.
Yeah,
He called it an enlightenment. I don't like the word enlightenment because it sounds too like it's too hard for people to grasp onto. It sounds too like out of the kind of realm of possibility. It sounds too out there, but it was really the state, Aaron, where I felt filled with pure joy,
hmm,
pure gratitude for the simplest of things. Um,
yeah,
there was no worry from the past. Like the past was absent, and there felt like no need for me to really consider the future either. Like I just felt very, very content, extremely overjoyed and content with the state that I was in right then and there.
yeah,
And it's this, and it's so hard for me to really articulate it because my thing is I experienced this thing that was really powerful and potent in my life, and I want to easily transfer it to other people and say like, this is what it is. Like, here's
hmm,
how I got there. Here's how, here's what I think, you know, could help you. And it's like I want that to be the case, but at the same time, I've realized that I just have to let it be. And
yeah,
and you're just like the only other person I felt like I could really that would really like understand it to the level that it was actually happening at.
hmm,
And it was definitely I don't I feel like so our trip was like late October and this all happened like November 17th. Like the Friday that I did the first recording of the podcast, it like started that day when I went on this hike and I felt like I truly tapped into this. It wasn't even like a choice.
yeah,
It wasn't like I'm doing this, I'm going for it. It was more like
yeah,
just it happened. And I feel like my life hasn't really been the same since.
yeah. Well, you mentioned you were on a hike. Nature can usually bring this out of you, because a lot of times I feel like we're so surrounded by not nature. We're surrounded by like human-made things that it sort of takes us out of this state
Mm.
of just being, just naturalness. And so like whenever you're in nature and you're just in nature, not you're not, you're not working, you're not focusing on, like you said, you're not focusing about on the future, or you're not thinking about the past, worrying or dreading or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just there and you're just experiencing and you just are, then you're just in a state of pure awareness, which is like the most natural state you can be in. And so that's where like true peace um arises, or at least it's you experience it. It's always there, but you experience it when you sort of relax your mind and you're just in a state of presence, of pure being.
Mm.
And so I think that if you're wanting to like transfer that to other people, it is kind of hard to tell them about it, but you can kind of just point them toward in the right direction. So
Mm.
it, for anybody listening, they could go on a hike in, the most nature filled, place that you're around, I guess. Like Colorado was great for that. We went on hikes in the mountains, and I mean, you could go sit there and you're not listening to,
Mm-hmm.
you just hear the wind, you hear birds, whatever natural elements there are, and you're
Mm-hmm.
just looking around. You're just using your sense perceptions. You're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
You and you feel that sense of, aliveness that you are, and
Yeah.
that in itself is just satisfying. It's enough, and you don't have to have anything more. You don't
Right.
really need anything in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You just are, and it's so. It does. It's when joy comes up, and I think you might have mentioned bliss. Like
Yeah.
all these things can come up just naturally. You're not even
Right.
having to. You're not having to get anything. You're not having to do anything, or like,
Mm-hmm.
some people feel really good when they're doing drugs or drinking or something, or even just eating
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But all that stuff is like you have to like
Right.
put a substance in you in order to
Right.
like feel satisfied. But what we're talking about more is just like,
Well, that's another part of it is like the drug use. Like obviously people can take a substance and achieve some altered state of being. And this the reason I knew that this was really deep and true was that I didn't need that to get to the state that I was in.
yeah,
It was outside of that. And I actually have a little bit of I feel like I'm even in a better position to identify what it truly is because I have experimented with drugs.
yeah,
I have taken
hmm,
substances that changed my thinking. So I can actually distinguish, the two. And this state was way more potent, way more fulfilling and deeper than anything I've ever taken. And it was completely free of any substance use. And that's how I knew it was like, man, it was so deep and meaningful that it was like I was just crying. It was like I
yeah,
tapped into this like full sense of feeling and being. And yeah, I just feel like I think anyone can get there. I think there's our culture and society is set up to where it's harder to get there because there's a lot of just the noise. I mean, our phones will always bombard us with notifications if we let it. We're also social creatures. We set up our lives to where we're surrounded by pets. We're surrounded by family. We live close to our family. It's kind of hard to get to just full focus on the present. And to me, I picture that as just being alone. Like even just if I'm in like when I got Remy and I was in my apartment, I noticed like, oh, my attention is drawn to my cat Remy much more now that just that he's here. I mean, I might be in the office like thinking about something really hard or trying to meditate, and I'm like, I'll hear a noise in the living room and it'll break my like focus and I'll have to get up and like go see if Remy knocks something over. And so just getting into a place in my life where it was like I was I was hiking, I was alone, my phone was like completely turned off. I didn't have any pets with me, I didn't have anybody with me. It was kind of a trail off the beaten path, like there wasn't a whole lot of other hikers. I just felt completely like I was completely able to feel this moment. And when it clicked, dude, when I realized like I remember where I was sitting on this little like cliffside looking out over a ocean of pine trees, blue sky, birds in the distance soaring quietly. Like, and I remember I just kind of turned and I looked at a tree and I just literally thought about Eckhart Tolle,
Mm-hmm.
thought about his book of just this present moment, the now, and I just like literally clicked into the now. And I just
Yeah.
realized, oh my gosh, this moment here is the only moment. And then it just restarted. What about now? Oh, now. And then there was just no thinking. And then it was just like, I am.
Yeah.
And it was like this really weird change in like the pressure of my being of just like a weight had been lifted off me. Like all this weight had just been taken off my shoulders. And, that's what it felt like in that moment. And then obviously the hike continued and I didn't really identify it or put my finger on it until like I started the podcast, because the podcast
Mm-hmm.
was really like the physical manifestation of that feeling of presence of like the current moment matters, like giving utmost priority to the present moment. That's what I feel like a podcast is.
Yeah.
Like us right here right now, like this is the most important thing that is here, and it's really just about the now. So that's kind of
Yeah.
why the podcast, that I love that it broke through when it did. And I had all these thoughts about now's not the right time for the podcast, I need to wait, I need to make sure this is right, and I was just like, no, like just
Yeah.
like be in this now.
For
And
sure.
yeah.
That's a good point. I think that you follow your intuition right then, because a lot of times we have like this intuitive, like, this is what I like, we get this motivation or inspiration, because it comes, if when it's inspiration, it comes from within, is exactly what you had. But then there's always going to be these things that come up like, oh, it's not the right time, this has to happen first, I need to focus on this more. But that, to me, is not intuition. That's like just mind stuff, I guess you could call it. But
Mm-hmm.
that inspiration that you felt, that was deep, that like felt you felt compelled to start doing the podcast,
Uh-huh.
that was the truth, that's like what wanted to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think you just got in touch with that, which is awesome. And yeah, man, everything you said was like spot on about sort of like what how you experience it, and then what you experience whenever these things happen, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like you experienced something like that in your life?
Oh yeah, lots. And so I will say at first it's usually easier to be by yourself, because like you said, you can just look around. You're not getting distracted because your cat's knocking something off the kitchen table. But eventually, I mean, some of the deepest moments in meditation, if you want to call it that, I usually don't even like to use the word meditation anymore. But like, if some of the deepest moments I've had was just my dog lying on my lap, me petting her
Mm.
and sitting and just, I mean, I'm in a state of pure bliss. It's like, I think animals, pets, they can often bring you also to this just complete alert awareness where all you are is just in that moment. And
Yeah.
at first it is helpful, I think, to be by yourself, but like, that's not necessary. It's just helpful.
Yeah, I mean, my Remy's kind of like you said, like he's like a source of the now because that's all he knows.
Yeah.
You know, it really, yeah, like one of the deeper feelings or sentiments that I gathered too was like just this deep yearning for. It's like yearning for almost more time. Like, gosh, like the thought, like this is all gonna be gone one day. Like I'm gonna die one day, and
Mm-hmm.
like just like this, I literally will look at Remy and be like, Remy's not gonna be here forever. Like he's here right now, and like it's literally like pushes love to the forefront because you're like, this is
Yeah.
all here and it's gonna be gone one day. Like literally, it's just putting the now at the forefront and the top priority, like literally makes you a vessel of love because
Yeah.
there's no reason to tear other people down. There's no reason to harbor any negative emotion or to feel distracted. It's just like, man, we're here. Let's feel all this right now and be in the moment, you know?
Yeah. I think
It's crazy.
that's a good point. That's the only way to think to um, truly to experience that feeling of oneness and that feeling of connection with everyone and everything is to be fully present. Because then you,
Yeah.
like you just said, you're not thinking about our differences or anything that could distract you from the fact that we literally we're just here, and that's what makes this real, and that's what makes
Mm-hmm.
us alive, and we all share that in common is the fact that we are here now. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't deny that about anyone or anything. It's all happening now. And even we were talking about this 5 minutes ago, it was now, but
Mm-hmm.
it was the now then.
Yeah.
And now it's now, and later it'll be now then. Like, it's always now, though. That's the one thing that's like the common denominator of all this, and it's kind of even hard to talk about, but like,
Mm-hmm.
it is the one constant in anything that is. It is like it's always now. You can't even say here, because like here means that there's a here and there's there, but it's always,
Yeah.
everything you experience is always here. Everything you experience is always now. That doesn't fluctuate. You know what I mean? Everything
Mm-hmm.
else fluctuates. So like, that's what I think these spiritual people, these spiritual teachers and stuff are trying to say, is like, that's what that's where the realm of God comes in. That's where the realm
Mm-hmm.
your spirit, your eternal, timeless um, self
Mm-hmm.
is always now and here. It's like, so that's what we all need to get more in touch
Yeah.
with, because
Yes.
that's what's more important than, you know, what what am I going to do 5 years from now? Because if you put your priority and importance on the now, that's when the magic happens, and your 5 years from now is going to look much better than it is if you're always focusing 5 years in the future. Does that make sense?
Can you say that in a different way?
If you always put your attention on the now and your priority here and now, what can I do now to improve
Mm-hmm.
my quality of life? Then if you do that, and you have that constant mindset,
Uh-huh.
5 years from now is going to look great compared to if you're always thinking, where am I
Mm-hmm.
going to be at in 5 years?
Oh
Because if you're always
yeah.
thinking about where you're going to be at or in the future, then you're missing out on the important thing that can actually change
Right.
your life, that makes your future better.
Mm-hmm. It almost sounds so simplistic and so obvious, but it's a really, to actually embody it is a whole different thing than to just like understand it
Yeah,
even.
yeah. And it's I think we have to constantly remind ourselves, because like I said, like I've read The Power of Now probably 12 to 14 times, and I've I still catch myself like when I used to read it. It's been many years, but when I used to read it like again and again, I would catch myself like not doing the things that I had already learned, or you know what I mean, like not living the way that like I
Right.
know would benefit me.
Mm.
And like, even us talking about it now doesn't mean that like we're always going to be just in this state of like pure awareness where
Mm-hmm.
everything just falls into place and we're trusting
Mm-hmm.
the universe,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to keep reminding ourselves, oh, that's still true, even though
Mm-hmm.
we kind of like got away from that, but it's still the truth. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's I don't ever want to come off as like condescending, and I felt like that really early on when I was talking to Asia about it, because it was, you know, I did feel impervious to like my old self, my old
yeah,
way. And to say all that to Asia, she just broke down crying because she was like, "You're not the same person. Like you are not Alec that I know."
yeah,
And I was like, "This is for the good though,
yeah,
honey."
yeah,
Like, and it was a really weird like 5 days, Aaron, because it truly was a period where the universe was clicking. Like
yeah,
all my thoughts, memories, I could take old traumas, old memories from when I was 5 and like snap them into place on a new connection of understanding, and it would be like like a stream of energy could flow through that, and I would do that with all these different parts of my life, and it was
mm.
like it
I've
was like
experienced this
this.
before, man. It's crazy you're
You've
saying.
experienced this
Yeah,
part
yeah, yeah,
too?
yeah.
It's insane, man. And I was like, it got to a point where it was sustained because it
Yeah.
wasn't just like I literally the first day I did the podcast and I felt all this emotion. I'm like, I'm gonna sleep on it, just see what tomorrow, how I feel tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of times where I do something creative or I have an idea and I think it's the best idea ever, and then the
Mm-hmm.
next morning I wake up and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, why did I think that was so cool?
Yeah.
But I woke up the next day and it was like it was sustained, and then it was
Yeah.
like, I know this is right, I know the podcast needs to come out, podcast is like a thing now. And then it was like all this connecting in my mind of information and data, and then it started affecting my sleep. Like I couldn't eat, like food was like the last thing I cared about. I'm like, there's so much like meaning and important information in my mind, like why, how am I going to sit down and eat a bowl of oatmeal? Like I need to literally bring all this to the forefront of the world. It was just like this incredible power and like a powerful love, not power like top down, tyranny, like power of like, how can I raise the tides of love for the whole world? Like I'm a vessel, I've got the now, I'm in the now, and this is all that matters to me. And anybody that doesn't, that is struggling, in a past or present mindset, like I just felt this deep like need to bring this about, and it was like it was so sustained. And I remember it got to the point where my thoughts and my thinking, it was so it was running on so much horsepower that I asked Asia, I was like, I feel like something's seriously wrong with me, I think I need to go get like a brain scan, because it was
Yeah.
actually really shocking to me. Even being in it, I felt like I was kind of losing touch with reality almost.
Yeah.
And I
I'm not.
was
I'm
in
not
a
laughing at
sense.
you.
No, no, I was in a sense,
I've been
but
there.
like my occipital lobe, like back here, like it was sore from probably not sleeping for 3 days in a row, not
Mm.
eating. But I just remember like seriously, because Asia's an ICU nurse and like she would have good input. I like seriously was like, do you think I need to go see a doctor? Because she was there with me. We live together, so she's seeing all of it firsthand. So it was just very intense, man. And it's definitely staved off, like kind of shaved off since then.
Stabilized.
Stabilized, yeah. And I still have moments where I don't feel present. I still feel the same, but it's definitely a new baseline in my life.
Yeah.
And it's like a new anchor. And,
Yeah.
you know, like I can say with conviction, my life is completely different since this happened.
Yeah. It is like a. It's kind of just like a change in perception, but it changes. That's a big, shift. It's like a shift in
Mm-hmm.
perception. I think. Just to put your entire being, like now. You
Mm.
know. But like we mentioned, this earlier. Meditation is a great way. Like if you said you want to help people, I think just recommending certain meditations or recommending books or just being an example, because like you being fully present can rub off on people who might be, who might not be present at that time. So those are good things. I have a couple questions
Yeah.
about Asia. Like, so what you said, she thought you just changed. Like after that first day, she
Mm-hmm.
was like worried about you.
Yeah, you know, when I told her about what I was experiencing and feeling, I was using words like presence and enlightenment and
Mm.
a lot of those oneness, like literally words that Toll uses in the book.
It's hard to talk to people about
And
with using those terms sometimes.
yeah, and she felt like, like I guess she probably felt like less than me, like I was talking down to her,
Yeah,
and like I
yeah,
was being a little arrogant,
yeah,
probably. And
man.
because I'm sure you've tried to explain these things to other people and they get frustrated. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you and I
for sure.
probably have gone through it where I'm like, or what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like this very like,
A little bit. You were always pretty, but you always were more interested than other people, which is a good sign. Like that's the thing is that sometimes whenever I first started getting into this, I did realize that I was sort of. I'm completely against like pushing your agenda on other people. I hate when people come up to you and want them they want you to think the way they think or whatever,
Mhm. Mhm.
or like they're pushing your religion or whatever, because
Yep.
I hate those things. But there was times where I would get into conversations with people, and I had so much shift inside of me that I was like you said, I would start to talk in these terms of like oneness and presence and enlightenment, awareness.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to like some people, and they're just like, "What?" Like they thought I was just crazy. I'm like, It's not about the word. It's about like what I'm trying to talk about. What the word can mean. You can use any word instead of, because I would say sometimes I would say I don't like the word God. I like the word source or universe or something like that. And people would just like, sometimes people didn't understand that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, to me, that it all means the exact same thing. But like to certain people I would talk to, God meant one thing to them.
Mhm.
But I'm like, you can use any word you want to, in my opinion, to replace that. And as long as you're talking about the same thing, then it's exactly the same. You don't have to use the word, a certain word, you know? But
Yeah.
but it is like I do remember
Yeah.
talking to people and feeling a little bit
Like you can't get through to them. Like,
like
and
I
even me saying you can't get through to them, it does sound like they're like too like thick-headed to understand it. It does come off very like condescending,
yeah
even just phrasing it that way.
yeah
But it's frustrating to not be able, it's like a letdown for someone that you love to not understand it and then also consider it a bad thing,
yeah
because they think you're like losing touch with reality or you're not sane. Like, I don't know. It kind of, yeah, it's like a definitely the like epitome of a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, you
yeah.
know?
In reality, you're just going deeper. You're going deeper into reality, and like
Mm-hmm.
you're, instead of staying, I don't want to say stuck, but instead of staying on like one level of reality, you're
Mm-hmm.
just going deeper because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much. There's You can go very deep, and so if someone hasn't already gone that deep, it's hard to have these conversations. So we're not saying that they. It's almost like some people just aren't ready to have these conversations, because there's still some conversations that some people have, or there's certain things that people will do, and I don't feel like I'm ready for that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that, with not being ready to talk about certain things or not being ready to accept certain things. Like I've got like tons of tattoos now, and like I see people with tattoos on their face and like piercings on all over their, covered in head to toe, and to me, I don't feel ready to even, it's hard to accept that, because it's
Mm.
just, it's a little bit of a shock to what I'm used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know in their realities, they've already been where I'm at now. I'm not saying I'm going to get that point. I'm just saying they're where I'm at now, and they've already went past caring what other people think about how they look, and
Mm.
they're just expressing themselves the way they want to.
Mm.
And so that, to me, that's like super actually mature and deep, is to be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready. It's like it's hard for me to even accept that thing, or to like sometimes understand it. And but there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that I'm like less than them. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
they're less than me. It just means that we're all on different um parts of our journey.
Yeah.
Um
That's interesting, the tattoo thing, because after this point, like I want to get a tattoo now. Like,
yeah.
and I told Asia that like I like want I prioritize expression and
Yeah.
feeling over judgment from other people.
Mhm.
And yeah, like that's just, and it's, I've never wanted a tattoo ever in my life because I was so worried about like what would other people think of this, or even like it was more in myself, like what if I don't like this, what if future me looks back on this tattoo and doesn't like it. But it's like I feel like the tattoos that I get would be so, I think I'm able to better identify what's meaningful and true to me, and I
Yeah.
think, that they're timeless enough to where they could be a timeless addition to my body.
Yeah.
And but I don't know, I kind of have a complex with tattoos but it was this change after of like I said, expression over fear of judgment. It's like love over fear. It always kind of boils back down to like love is more important than fear.
Yeah.
And I've kind of altered that to even be like feeling is more important than thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember I can't even go down that road because it would just take too much time. But like, feeling is really important. Anyone that tells you your feelings are misleading or your feelings might lead you to do something that you'll regret, or your feelings can cause you to sin, feel more. Feeling is okay. You're allowed to feel. So that's all I really got to say about feeling. But
you're absolutely right, man. I think that's where like your intuition came from, was you felt that. It wasn't just thoughts of you starting this podcast, or it's more like it's deeper than thoughts. It's a feeling. So definitely get in touch with your feelings, get in touch with your body, and that's super important too. I was going to mention something about tattoos. I had the same shift when I went to Costa Rica and when I did ayahuasca there. After that trip, I realized I could give myself permission to do whatever it is I wanted to do. So if I thought like I was kind of in the same boat. Like I didn't want to get tattoos unless it was like super, super meaningful. It had to be like, it had to be perfect. It had to be meaningful. And even then, I'm still not sure if I want to get one. But it's like after a certain thing shifted in me, because I was around certain people when I was in Costa Rica, and we were all doing these psychedelic things to expand our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I realized like, oh, like I can do whatever, because I think subconsciously a lot of us, like you said, there's fear, and I think a lot of that was fear towards like maybe what not being accepted by my parents or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely gave myself permission to do what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my first tattoo, and now I've gotten like a ton since then. So it's so freeing to just give yourself permission to do whatever you want to do, regardless of that fear that comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your tattoos are sick, man. Like,
thanks, dude.
Gosh, I wish I could show the people. I'll have to point them to your Instagram. You got them on your Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're checking out the show notes, if you're one of the listeners that have been keeping up with the like YouTube show notes and like actually checking the links and stuff, I'll put a link to Aaron's Instagram, and you can check out. I'll put a link to his post that has his Mark Rebier tattoo on it. Is that the one that's? Or is it a real?
What?
Your tattoo that has the Mark Rebier tattoo, is that the one that took off on Instagram and a bunch of people liked it?
Oh yeah, because Mark shared it. He reshared it on his story. So,
yeah. I'll put a link to that post that Aaron put on his Instagram, and you can check out his sick thigh tat.
The Tenacious D one's pretty sick too, though. You have to send that.
And the Tenacious D one, he's got some gnarly murals on his body. I mean, they're covering up whole limbs.
Yeah.
But
That's fun, man.
But dude, we've been going for over an hour.
I figured we had.
Yeah, we kind of.
I really need to pee.
Yeah, we took off on the presents there, and that's exactly how it should be. Remy chilled out. Remy's cuddling in my lap. Man, time. You lose track of time when you're in the now.
Yeah. Well, it's really not important. Like, I think, honestly, we were starting to hit. I was getting interested in what we were saying, and I could keep talking for hours, but obviously, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I felt like we almost put too much down on the show notes, because it was almost like all like too much. We're not gonna hit all the topics. We need to rush through these, and it was kind of surface level. But yeah, it took us a good 15 minutes because Remy was kind of bouncing off the walls. But yeah, we settled in there. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you know that by now. But
we should have just, next time we're just gonna write now on the page.
Yeah, dude, we should have just done that, man.
Yeah.
But anything else, Coin, you want to say to the people? Anything else you want to say to me?
Well,
I mean,
we didn't get to talk about music, which is fine, but
yeah, we can't give it. There's more.
Maybe next time.
Yeah,
we'll get into music and stuff. I feel like that's another big, because like when I first heard you talk on your podcast, your very first episode, I feel like that you're like, that was like your main thing. You're like, I want to do this podcast because not only is it an stream of consciousness that are coming through me, I'm a vessel, everything, presence and stuff, but then there's like music. You kept like referring to music as like a big reason for you to even want to like express yourself, I guess. And
Yeah.
so yeah, next time maybe we can get into some music and maybe we can talk about our songs because
Yeah.
we've both, and Isaiah, I think y'all mentioned that too.
Yeah, if we could get me, you, and Zay in a room together and do a pod,
That'd be awesome, man.
Amazing. Yep. Well, hey, it's getting feels like it's getting late, like it's gonna start getting dark soon. I know you gotta go be around some pets and show them love. But yep, that's Pod 13. That's me and Coin. That's two friends just kind of linking up out of the blue. Hey, how you doing? Let's do a podcast. Welcomes me into his home. And we just recorded an hour-long podcast of, all the things you just heard. So
everything happened in the now, too. It's like...
Yep. Everything you just heard, that happened in the now. So anyways, Pod 13. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace out.
Give me all the keys. I'm about to unlock. Give me all the keys. I'm about to unlock. Give me all the keys, I'm about to unlock. Give me all the keys, I'm about to unlock.